Hello learners, I am Dr. Munish Kumar Bhardwaj from School of Engineering and Technology of IGNOU. Today I will discuss with you safety aspects in underground works. So the objectives of this lecture are that after going through this lecture, you should be able to identify the hazards involved in underground construction safety, describe the guidelines adopted by OSHAs for underground construction, then adopt control measures for underground activity in terms of safety, and finally, you will be able to discuss emergency procedures for underground constructions. So these are the objectives of this lecture. So let us first understand what is underground construction or underground works. Underground construction refers to the construction of underground tunnels, shafts, chambers, and passageways. It also sometimes refers to the portion of traditional construction that takes place below earth's surface. Means any construction activity or any works which is going on under the surface, that also is referred as the underground works or the underground construction works basically. Now, let us look at some history when this underground works or the underground construction works began. So if we look at that history, then human underground construction activities began with cave dwelling prehistoric people who wanted to expand their homes. Means it goes to the prehistoric period when the human beings were living in jungles and they were finding their dwellings, and the easiest dwelling they could find in the caves, basically natural caves. Then these caves were small, then they wanted to expand them for their living. So then they started excavating them, cutting them basically. So these were the first traces of that underground activity in the human history, you can say. Then all ancient civilizations practiced some form of underground construction. Whatever were the civilizations throughout the world, basically, you will find that in these civilizations some kind of underground construction work or underground works happened basically. Some traces found like that. Then one important branch of this, you can say as a proof, that rock cut architecture. What is that rock cut architecture? You might have read in the history that in India and throughout the world basically there are many buildings, there are many constructions basically which were carved out by cutting the parent rock. Means nothing, no building material was brought to that place to build that. Everything was created by cutting the existing rock basically. So this is because these people were doing this construction activity by cutting that rock, and they were entering into the rock. So this was considered as the underground work or the underground construction. And in early urban centers, underground spaces served as burial places. These are the things for what purpose basically these underground spaces were used in the early urban centers basically. So these were used as burial places to provide protection against the invaders basically. When the invaders invaded any place, so they created for their safety, they created the underground spaces basically to safeguard themselves from the invaders. So these were used basically. Then it enabled for early public utilities. Many services, public services, public utilities, for that also it was used basically. So these are some historic facts about the underground works or the underground construction. Now, What happened later on that when this urbanization increased, then there was a need to find some spaces which was not disturbing the aesthetics of that existing place and also not making the existing facilities congested. So there it was thought that let us do the public services or public utilities underground, all these activities underground, like laying the cables, then making these sewerage systems basically. So many things basically were started which went underground. So with the urbanization, this underground activities also increased. So like sewers, public water supply system, subways, underground commercial spaces. You find nowadays lot many underground commercial spaces. Almost in every market, you will find that underground commercial spaces. Then, if you travel on the roads, basically, you find then many subways there. So these are the activities which increased with the increased urbanization. Uh, in late 20th and early 21st century, advances in automation and geotechnical engineering have allowed the ambition and scale of underground construction projects to increase. Because there were challenges, there were problems, there were risks involved in underground construction or underground works basically. But now, with the advent of the new facilities, new technologies, new machineries, uh, it has become easy and bit safer in comparison to the past basically. Here you see this graphic that on surface you see the structures, and here in the underground basically lot many public services, public utilities are there. Your metro train is running underground, your cables, then sewers, so many things are there which are not visible basically from the top surface, but they are there. So for extensive things, many activities, this underground works or underground constructions are going on. These are some of the other graphics which shows what type of things the engineers are doing under the earth basically. You see here the tunnels basically, all three pictures are related to the tunneling work basically. So this is showing that how these are done basically, but also these pictures are giving you the glimpse of the risk associated with these activities. There are many risks associated with these basically, and the two prominent risk is that problem of lighting and ventilation, because when we are working underground there are no natural light is there available basically. Second thing is ventilation, air is not available basically. So that these workers have to do in difficult situations, and these situations may be very risky for the health of the workers. So from that point of view, the safety aspects come into the picture basically. So this lecture is all about this, that what are the risks associated with the underground works and what safety measures we can take to avoid any accident while working underground basically. This is another graphic that is here you see that under the existing surface structures, that underground tunneling, underground work is carried on here, that machines are lowered through the shaft, then through that shaft these tunneling work is going on. So two parallel tunnels are being constructed here, you see here. So how this tunneling work is done, so this picture is just giving you a glimpse of that basically. And you can imagine that these workers are working under a great depth, so there are lot many risks and hazards associated with this type of work basically. So what are the challenges in underground construction? Underground construction has a number of unique risk, mind it. Means here these are the risks which are associated with this type of work basically. And in addition to this, there are challenges which are associated with the traditional construction and mining also. So two type of things, risk associated with the traditional construction and mining, and here there are additional risks which are unique to this type of work basically. Underground construction workers often work under reduced light condition because there is no natural light there available. We have to make arrangement for the lighting basically. Then these spaces are very dangerous because how they are dangerous? There may be a fall of the material, fall of that loose sediments. There may be some gas pockets there, which often we find basically. Then there may be a ingress of water because if a shallow water table is there, so if we punch that water table, so there may be an ingress of water. Water may flow into that space where the workers are working basically. So many things make this space as a dangerous space. And these workers are at high risk of exposure to contaminants because nowadays with that modern life, we are leaving lot many contaminants into the soil which are going underground. So they may meet with these contaminants. There may be fire accidents also because if some inflammable gases are there underground. So, and due to some friction in the tools and that stones basically, a little spark can give rise to a great fire. So such type of risks are there. Then there may be explosions. Explosions because of these some explosive gases and the materials also. So these are the risks which are associated with such type of works. Now, what are these risks? Let us see one by one. First, as I told you that fall or dislodgement of earth, rock or other materials. That when these workers are excavating or doing the tunneling work or doing the trenching, then the loose materials, loose earth, rocks and the other materials may fall or dislodge from its original position and it may hit the workers, or if it is that amount is large, then that material can bury them basically. So these are the risks. Then the workers which are working there, they are working at different levels basically. So these workers may fall from their workplace, workstation basically. There may be a fall of the materials and objects, machines, tools. If a worker is working at the lower ground level and another person is working some 5-6 feet above that person, and by accidentally if some tool falls from his hand and if it lands on the head of the another person, another worker, then it may cause a major injury which can lead to even that casualty. So such type of things are there. Then inrush of water into the excavation, as I told you just now, that if some pipeline is going on, if accidentally we are hitting that pipeline and cutting that pipeline, so due to that water supply pipeline, or it may be that sewerage pipeline, or it may be a natural water table at shallow depth. So if this inrush of water happens there into the excavation, these workers may be trapped there and there may be a big accident. Then lack of adequate aeration and ventilation, because there when we are working underground, proper amount of air and oxygen is not there. So we have to make arrangement for that proper aeration of that workspace there in underground. Then safe access or egress to reach a safe place. If some accident happens, then if there is an inrush of water or fall of some material, then the first thing is that safe access of the workers. So if that safe access is not there, then it will be a great problem. The workers will be trapped there in that place and it may lead to a major accident. Then lack of safe access to reach to a safe place in accident of fire or inrush of the water or the material. Then circulation of floods, circulation of fluids or presence of pockets of gas. As I told you earlier also, that there may be water or other fluids like sewage or some pocket of gases. So if these are there, then these may cause a situation which may lead to a major accident. So these are the risks which are associated with the underground works or the underground construction basically. Now, so to avoid any accident, what are the safety initiatives taken basically throughout the world? So the starting is done in US. In the United States, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, first adopted unique regulations for underground construction in 1971. OSHA regulates underground construction by companies and federal agencies. Underground construction is one of the most dangerous industries in the world, but now it is becoming safer, especially as the most dangerous jobs are now automated. Means the dangerous jobs are being done by the machines, robots basically. So that way now it has become comparatively safer than the earlier time. So in Indian scenario, what are the rules, regulations, provisions, guidelines basically? So here in India also government has developed Indian standard codes related to the safety of the underground works. What are these codes basically? Here you see the different type of codes mentioned here. IS 4756 1978, safety code for tunneling work. Then another code is IS 3764 1966. It is safety code for excavation work. Then IS 4081 1986, safety code for blasting and related dealing operations. Then another code is there, IS 4138 1977, safety code for working on compressed air. Then IS 7293 1974, safety code for working with construction machinery. Then another code with many parts, IS 5878, codes for practices related to tunneling and underground excavations. For example, it's part 2, section 1 deals with the drilling and blasting for underground excavation for tunnels in rock. Then part 2, section 2 is code of practice for construction of tunnels. It deals with the ventilation, lighting, mucking and dewatering, the tunneling work. Then IS 5878 part 1, it is code of practice for construction of tunnels and it gives guidelines regarding the precision survey and setting out. Then another code or rather act and rules if we talk about is Indian Explosive Act 1988, because during the tunneling work explosives are used. So this gives an account or the guidelines regarding the explosive materials, basically how to deal with them and how to use them safely. Then Indian Explosive Rules 1983. So these are some of the guidelines for safe underground works. So if these are followed, then these underground activities or the works can be done safely and we can avoid many accidents. Now, Indian Railways also have developed guidelines for safety in tunnels during construction. They have published a report basically. That report is RDSO 2011 GEG 0016, which was published in 2012 basically. So it gives a detailed account for safe work during the tunneling basically. How to do the work safely. Now let us look at that general safety provisions. If we follow these safety provisions, then we can avoid many accidents and the work will be done in a safe manner. What are these? Let us see one by one. Adequate safety measures should be taken while performing critical activities involved in any excavation, earthworks, underground works or tunnels. These activities can be safely performed by following some basic safety measures such as: number one, by suitable shoring, sheeting, putting wire mesh, rock anchoring to guard against danger to workers from a fall or dislodgement of earth, rock or other material. Why we are doing that? We are avoiding the two situations, that fall of a worker or dislodgement of the earth, rock or the other material. Then to guard workmen performing these critical activities against hazards arising from the fall of persons, materials or objects or inrush of water into excavation, shaft, earthworks, underground works or tunnels. So there is a long list of these safety provisions or the features, guidelines. If these are followed, then we can avoid many accidents which generally happen in the underground works or the underground constructions. So we will continue our discussion in the next lecture. Till then, you go through that text that you have with you and we will discuss these things in the next lecture. Thank you.